Hello, ladies and gentlemen. If you're looking at us for the first time, it is me, Viki Esther Chang, and you're looking at Facebook, the Platinum platform. And please stay with us. And if you're with us, do this as I am showing to you. Please go to Facebook, and wherever you are, you see me and my co-host Alex Chan. Please share this with as many friends as possible because we are into the penultimate episode for State of Our World for this season 2025. And I think this is so important. The times that we're in, we are pivoting into a new era of technology and science. And it is accelerating faster each day in an almost breathless rate. So, because we all have a stake in humanity and our civilization, I invite you to join us now or in the future. Share this with your friends and your family. And this is me, Viki Esther Chen. I am here at 9:20 p.m. Singapore time. It is a Tuesday evening. And if you're in America, Eastern Standard Time, you will actually be 9:20 a.m. if you're from New York, where some of our friends and followers are from. And in this part of the world, we welcome you. If you're in Asia, we welcome you. If you're in Europe, and we welcome you if you're from North America or South America, where most of our followers are. Thank you for being here with us, ladies and gentlemen. And today we're going to dive deep again to the deep end, um, AI and humanity. And we have Mr. Alex Chen here. What a great full time we have that we have him for the last 7 episodes. He kind of tried to demystify for some of us who are novice who do not know what's going on. You can always dive deeper. Uh, Hopefully, we can do this online as a webinar sometime to teach classes, Alex. But it's enough, I think, as an introduction to what he is capable of, his technical expertise and his competence in the domain of artificial intelligence for the last how many number of years. So it is such a great time and a pleasure to have him with us for this final episode of AI and humanity, AI and ethics, and the rest of the things we're going to talk about. And this is the penultimate episode for State of Our World, because next Monday, please join us. Annette Wittenberger from Texas, and myself here in Singapore will have a transatlantic live episode next Monday. Stay with us. Alex, how are you? And what are we going to talk about today?
Well, hi. Today I had a good day. I mean, I must say I felt vindicated today. We're going to talk about quite things, right? I felt vindicated because I had a talk in 2018, saying that to be a little bit more precise, right? I was checking on AI on what I actually said in 2018, right?
Yeah,
So I said that that was in a talk, by the way, with the
yeah,
University of London. And we were talking about AI. And remember 2018, people were looking at me like, AI, why are you talking to me about AI in 2018? People were like,
mm,
what are you talking about, right? It was quite
yeah,
literally like that. But it was an hour and a half, right? I still remember a lot of people came up to me after the talk, and we were just having a lot of
yeah,
conversations and a lot of questions. But I think right now, I think we're beyond all that. I think a lot
yeah,
of us are quite truly understand. Well, I mean, sort of understand what AI can or cannot do, right? But I think the conversation is going to be very different. And I think if we go back to our first episode, I actually did say that this time is going to be different, right? I don't know
mm,
if
yes,
the viewers have actually watched the very first one. We actually
yeah,
did say this AI wave is this time is going to be very different. The
yeah,
reason why is very often, right, technology will come in, it comes as a wave,
yeah,
right? It'll go up, and then you plateau, right? And then another wave will come, another
yeah,
type of technology will come. But in this case, I do not believe that AI will go up. I mean, as it is now, it will not plateau, but because there will be other technologies that gonna boost, the next wave of AI,
Yeah.
right? The wave will be continuing. The reason why, I'll give you an example, right? Today, right now, AI is pretty much powered on GPUs. That's why NVIDIA,
Yeah.
the most powerful hardware companies in the world right now.
Yeah.
But in years to come, right, when quantum computing comes in, that will just supercharge AI again, right? You imagine how that will work. So there will be another wave. So right now, if you're not on this
Yeah.
particular wave, right, I won't bet my house on it, but I'll say this, right, as what I said in 2018. I'm happy today is validated, but I will say that within the next 5 to 10 years, quantum computing will boost, will kick off another wave of another AI wave again, right? So
Yeah.
going
And
back, why I feel very vindicated with what I said, because in the news, the Tsinghua University, right, they launched a full AI hospital
hospital.
with 42 AI doctors, right? That was
Wow.
that was incredible news. But I did say that in 2018 that doctors are going to be somewhat replaceable because the work that they do are transactional, meaning the diagnosis, the treatments, dishing out of medication. These are pretty transactional.
Yeah.
Uh, but nurses are not likely to be replaced. The reason is because the work that they do is
Mm.
requires empathy, requires care, right? So I think at this current stage of AI, right, that we know that AI has a cause and effect, meaning that it has an input and it has an output, right? So it's going to be transactional. But whereas I
Mm.
think for nurses and all these jobs that sort of need sort of real creativity, a real empathy, real care, right, is still not going to be replaced by AI. So yesterday we talked about if you're an artist, right, what is the danger of you being replaced by an AI? I say yes. If you're a digital artist, then you will be in real danger because your format is in digital form. But if you are an artist on a real canvas that use a real paintbrush, then I think AI is not gonna anytime take over you at anytime soon, because the level of dexterity that is needed to hold a real paintbrush and put it on a real canvas, that is not achievable yet. So yeah, great day. I mean, I feel vindicated. I'm happy, right? It's crazy what but I must say, in that
Yeah.
2018 talk, I actually did say, I know, 7 years down the road, right, 2025, some things I I made some wrong predictions as well. So that's the
And
caveat.
Alex, we started episode one some couple of months ago. Things have moved so fast, but whatever we said before has actually has been translated into reality. A lot of the things, and some of these announcements, like AI education, that's come up. Donald Trump has signed an executive for putting in AI into the curriculum as a compulsory education, and they're really starting it already, rolled out really quickly, really fast. And also deep fake, some of these things, regulation, they just signed today. As I look at the news,
Mm,
they want to make sure that some of these deep fakes of victims can be taken down. That is called, I think the new act is called Take It Down Act, which is good for women or men, or children, right? You don't want to be you don't want your image to be abused,
yeah.
or you don't want whatever private information or private images to be circulated online by criminals or by bad actors. So back to today, Alex. We're going to wrap up today for today's season. AI and society. We started off with AI and society, and today we're going to talk about some of the things that hopefully we could wrap up or close the episode with these points. We're going to talk about discussion on the broader societal implications of AI education. and governance and social equity. Oh, I love you to talk about that. Let's hear it from you. Also talk about exploring the potential of AI to address global challenges like climate change. We talked a little bit about yesterday about
Mm,
food poverty,
mm.
and also analyzing the role of AI in shaping the future of democracy and civic engagement. And the final point is um, the discussion of potential for AI to create either a utopian or a dystopian future. I mean, these are huge things. These are almost like a PhD research paper on its own.
Well, I mean, these are that I think this is how deep this is.
Yeah,
This level of technology is going to touch us, right? It's going to be that
yeah,
deep, and it's going to be so life changing,
yeah,
right? So yeah, I think we in a way we need to talk about it, right? Whether
mm,
we did start off this entire series, whether this is
yeah,
an alpha or omega, right? So
yeah.
I think I like to eventually part four is really to close off, right, and to see whether we can create a utopian or dystopian. Yeah, I agree. PhD level stuff. We're not. I'm not going to do that, right? So, but I think we should be able to plant some seeds onto perhaps some
I am
students.
personally interested in point four. I mean, from the gut feel, right? We can talk about it from an analytical point of view. A lot of scientists would say A or B, subscribing to different camps, right? Or in the middle. Um, I tend want to think about from my gut feel. Um, I'm more towards um, not negative, but there are things that is pointing to the dystopian camp, right? And it's easy for us to go into that camp. And why so, Alex? When people start hearing news about jobs are being displaced, um, latest news today, I think Microsoft or Google is going to cut about 6,000 jobs, about 5% of the global workforce, if I read it correctly, because they are always cutting workforce now. So I think that played a part. The whatever news that's coming in, that played a part, and also the other point about going into the unknown because these are really new stuff. Number three, it's about you catching up with the skills because there are a lot of new terminologies. The lexical environment is totally different. You're trying to figure out what is quantum technology, right? I've never heard of it in my whole life until recently as I start reading, because it's not part of my uh, uh, competence training, it's not my domain knowledge. So I think there's a lot of noise out there that kind of puts many people into that fear when they feel that, hey, maybe the road ahead is not clear anymore. So when they don't see a clear path ahead or that the path ahead is being disrupted due to all these things that's coming, whether you're a doctor, you feel that your job is being threatened, whether you're a teacher like myself, your job is going to be threatened, you kind of fall into that camp. However, I would like to also say that I do want to calm down. That's why we have a very rational discussion in these episodes for between us and the audience at large about, is it going to be a world of abundance? And today I read another interview. Can't remember his name. I think one of the famous authors. He did talk about. Can you imagine? We only got hot water from our shower only 50 years ago.
Mm,
And before 50 years ago, you still had to shower and you boil the water. I'm not sure how people do it in a bucket, or I don't even think you will boil, you just shower. But he was saying that a lot of small little stuff, you take it for granted, but they were not in existence 50, 100 years ago.
yeah,
You
I mean,
walk down the street, right? You've got the Uber, and now you've got the Tesla self-driving cars, and you've got food delivered like a hotel home, room service. I call it room service. So, I think a lot of things have changed that we take for granted. And this, I always say, this is the marvel of technology. I could live stream and show my followers Singapore as I go to MBS or as I drive. These are the marvels of technology. We are really living in a world of abundance already, and that's going to be like 10x, 100x, and something that we who are not the scientists, the people from the school of the science come from, we can't envisage that. But this is what the scientists are telling me, and this is probably what Alex you're telling me, Vicky. We're going to live in a world of abundance. So I'm actually swung between two camps right now. Sometimes I'm on the left, sometimes on the right. But I'm still trying to chug my way forward, trying to learn. But I think as human beings, we can cope. We just have to calm down uh, and really like just sort out the path ahead. And we have done so for the last 100 years. So I think we're going to do so successfully for the next 100 years.
Yeah, look, I mean, if you look at it, if you if you start looking at human history, right? Let's just look at the democracy. Democracy was in from ancient Greece, right? So it's been a long time ago, right? But if you talk about women's suffrage,
Suffrage, yeah.
that didn't
Well,
happen
just only 100 years ago.
over 100 years ago,
Yeah.
right? So democracy. So and you talk about human history, we're barely a couple of thousand years old. I mean, in terms of civilization here.
Yeah.
So the last 100 years, and in terms of world population, if you look at the chart, just check the chart. The growth is in the last 100 years, right? So the last
Yeah.
100 years
And it
has
goes this way.
really, really gone up, and I think sometimes I think, well, is this sustainable? I mean, at some point it will not be sustainable, right? At some point it will not be. Whether technology is technology aside, it will not be sustainable. But I think technology will play a very, very big part in trying to extend that, the level of sustainability
Mm.
for human beings. I go
Mm.
back again. I mentioned this before. The Earth. Humans need Earth, but
Mm.
actually, Earth they don't really need us. They don't need humans,
Yeah, yeah.
right? I think the Earth will really, really prosper, will really,
Yeah.
really flourish without
Mm.
humans.
Yeah.
So the real question here is, how can humans, harness technology, right? In order for us to be able to survive in this environment, not
Mm.
just and Elon Musk will also say that not just in this current environment called Earth, right, but interplanetary, in other environments as well.
Mm.
My argument here would be this: if you can, if humans can learn to terraform other planets, right, to make other planets a
Mm.
very livable place, maybe we should think about terraforming Earth first, right, to
Yeah.
make Earth a better place. But like I
Yeah.
said, I think these are really, really far and no, whether is it utopian and dystopian. But I think the key point here is that we really need to talk about this.
Yeah. And you know what? Sometimes when I read news about yes going to Mars, is it even possible? Is that just a hope against hope? Something. Sometimes civilization we do need to have a hope. But then when we think back, we never had Google Map like even like 10, 15 years ago. No, 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 not 10 years ago. We don't even have the Google Map. And I'm thinking, like, how did I navigate?
Yeah,
Yeah, but now you can look at the traffic. You can look at the trend. That kind of sets me thinking the things that we thought were impossible because a lot of new videos of past interviews about people's vision about 2025, 2020 years ago in the 1980s. Whatever they said in the 1980s or the 1970s, whatever they imagined when we thought it was out of the world, they all came true and we surpassed them. So we must not count out the fact that we will never go to Mars. We may go to Mars. Because look at this. This is a machine by itself. We've got AI. We've got ChatGPT. This by itself is a machine. the marvels of technology is already in our hands, and it gets smaller and smaller. And I look at I should have played a video, but the video is below. I've actually put it. NVIDIA has actually explained. Jensen Huang has actually explained his a system which is called NVIDIA, whatever name, because they've got so many systems, is able, that machine he showed us on stage, that machine alone can power the whole of the internet by terabyte, 1,000 or one, I don't know how many terabytes per second. And he was explaining that, his technology is able to do that. Think about that in the 1970s, if my mom says that to my dad, and then my dad is going to say, you're crazy, right? So, a lot of things that we think the Star Wars world, or the Tom Cruise Minority Report world, the Minority Report has got all these little robots, right, that can scale the walls and can go into your house and can look at you. That was like 10, 15 years ago, and it's already happening. So you know what, Alex, that thought about the wall of abundance may be true. It can happen. It's already shown itself. We are already living in a world of abundance. If you go to Chat GPT, for example, let me just say a little bit. If you Google Viki Esther Chang, you've got pages and pages of me, and I'm shocked out of my life, because I'm talking about a Google who knows me. An AI who knows who I am. So like what we're going to talk about today. I hope you can wrap up about talking about AI and social equity, AI and education, and also explore the potential of AI to address global challenges, and also the role of AI in shaping the future of democracy.
Yeah.
Why don't you pick one of your pet subjects?
I love to talk about education, because it's really, so if you really think about education, right? You're an educator, right? We all learners. So currently now, I
We're all
think
learning, yes.
we're all learning. We're
We're,
all
we're
learning.
all relearning and unlearning.
Yeah. So the current mode of learning, right? Going from, you have your preschool, and then you have your, in Singapore it's called primary school, right? That's six
Yeah.
years of our lives, and then we have our, again, in the Singapore system we will call that secondary school, and that's high school. And then you have to university, and and then you sit down, you face a teacher, and delivery one way, right? Fundamentally, I think that the mode of learning, right, or delivering knowledge to the student, right, through, has been around for what, 200, 300 years, 400 years. Through universities and all this, I think right now it's going to change dramatically, right? So, and is this going to be efficient? The current mode of learning education, is this going to be efficient? I think not so much. I think the real problem right now is, in a class of 40, you cannot personalize learning, right? So one of these things is, in terms of education, I really believe that you can actually personalize learning, right? Meaning that really according to the pace that of the learner, and to what you like, and the key point about education is not about, yes, I think we have gone through their modes of needing to produce workers, to be able to feed the industry, right? But I think is, if you talk about from a more utopian perspective, is really to bring the best out of each person. The education, if you're at a personalized level, if they can bring out the best of the person, that the student, I think that's really would be the goal of education, right? And I don't think there's absolutely no way for a human to be able for humans to do that, unless it's a one-on-one homeschool, and and each student have one teacher. It's just not possible, right? But I think with AI, perhaps that's the start of a journey. So I think the real way education that really need to change, and with especially with AI and education, is personalized learning. I think that not only will be able to improve engagement, because it's really about engagement, because when you're well, I'm known for it, right? Well, you sound like you're a perfect student, but I'm not. I, right? I'll go to lectures, and half the time I'll be asleep. I'm that I put my head up and say I'm not the best student, right, in the world. But I think that is also the problem, where because I'm not engaged.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you. I mean, when I'm engaged, I'll be fully awake. You will get my 100% attention.
Yeah, and think about if you can, if you with the AI tutor, you can actually choose the vibe that you like, right? People are just talking about the vibes of the AI chatbots right now.
I'm not saying that we're going to replace teachers. We're not. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying
You
that
can get a funny teacher or a sexy teacher or or a good-looking
Okay,
teacher that
I'm
kind of
going to
keeps
say
you
that.
awake.
I'm talking about engagement here, but then again, if a sexy teacher that's engages, yeah, why not, right? But look, I think the point here about is really engagement. It's
Yeah,
really about igniting curiosity,
yeah.
right? So it's really about personalized education to really, really harness the true talents of each individual. If when that happens, I think the entire the society will flourish.
Yeah, yeah. No,
So I
I
think
do I do agree with you because as I take my postgrad diploma in various various courses, digital data, etc. I do a lot of asynchronous learning,
mm,
right?
mm,
And yeah, and with or without the teacher at and during that time or out of that time, out of the class, it's up to me. And I look a lot on videos, and the way you chat with your trainers are through emails or through just Teams, right? Google Teams. And everyone can have a say and everybody can talk to you at the same time. I mean, that's a lot of advantages from there. And people can share files that, in a traditional classroom, you can't do that, right? Definitely, there's a lot of, even right now, without the AI, with the current technology, the form and the mode of it, it's already dynamic learning. I think with the AI, with the AI tutor, for me, definitely, I'm going to engage a tutor that is funny, that doesn't judge me, can speak in multi-language, Singlish included. That will be really, really fun, right?
So look, I mean the AI part, and I mean you don't talk about AI, we talk about machine, right? So
Yeah.
when was the last time you go to McDonald's? Okay, I don't go to McDonald's too often, but when's the last time you go to McDonald's and actually go up to the counter and say, I want to order something?
It's been a long
Versus
time, right?
going
Yeah.
up to the kiosk, and then you start
Yeah.
ordering.
Yeah.
Right? There
Yeah.
are McDonald's out there that does not take, they do not take orders anymore. I mean the
Yes.
human counter, they don't.
Yes.
Everybody's going to the
Yes.
stores, right? And start.
Particular when you go to a foreign country whereby there's a language barrier, right? Going to the counter is such a struggle. But now with the dashboard menu, you can just like click click click. Because it is
Right.
universal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think
Tell me,
that's
I am very very interested to tap your brain and your intellect. Tell us about social equity. How does AI add or take away social equity? I mean, social equity. What's your definition of social equity?
well. I mean, we're talking about equity here.
Like social value, right? Yeah.
And we're talking about equity, meaning that equal, right? I mean,
Yeah.
if we talk about the problems here right now in society, right, is big. There are many gaps.
Reward equity.
There are many gaps, right? So the difference
Yeah.
between one person and the next,
Mm.
whether is it between communities or
Mm.
within groups, right? I think
Mm.
one of the issues where I mean is these are touchy subjects, right? If we talk
Mm.
about one community versus another community, we're talking about
Mm.
people who are marginalized, right? So I
Yeah.
think I also believe, and partly
Yeah.
that's what I do. I mean, in terms of my work, and because we have
Mm.
systems that run in the courtrooms, right? And I really
Yeah.
believe that and technology can really improve or at least what I do, improve access to justice in our case, but also access to very essential services like healthcare,
Yeah.
education, financial service, the works, right? Is really gonna be. We believe that I believe that all these will improve access to all these services for marginalized communities.
Yeah, I
By
mean, just to really interject and just to jump
Mm,
in, with just a couple of examples to YouTube and to Facebook, right? Some
mhm,
of these creators, they come from the poorest part of the world, but they're able to get hold of the internet and the handphones, and they're making lots of money. You're talking about really, really marginalized, the really the deepest part and the poorest part of the people in Africa. I won't single out Africa, but I'm saying third world countries. You're looking at people who are giving out money, that it's
correct.
almost like a social thing because they're getting so much money from the eyeballs from YouTube and the eyeballs from Facebook, and they're being paid, and now they're giving back to the world and to the community. I'm saying I mean, there are lots of names you can call up, but that's already happening. And if you don't call that abundance, the equal opportunity for people who can keep up, I don't know what you call it. So I do think that if you could keep up, um, meaning that you could keep up with the pace, you could keep up with some of these training and not sit down and sulk and sit down and complain about the world, but navigate through very quickly. I think the world is yours. And I think that's the test right here, Alex.
Mm.
It is the test. It is like the phoenix going through the fire.
So I,
Um,
I I think really about social equity here would really be
yeah,
right where the a tool, right, I mean in terms
yeah,
of the AI part, can be a real equalizer,
yeah,
can be the equalizes
yeah,
leveler, right? We're talking about leveling up, whether it's social status or whether is it financial status, economically, or wherever, whether is it at a personal level or at a community level. So these are things that potentially AI can narrow the gaps and build
yeah,
bridges over these gaps,
yeah,
right? And really
yeah,
improve things at a societal level. So I
yeah,
think that's where I think is very important to really talk about this. And recently I've spoken to another NGO, right? They are called Just Law from Israel, right? And they are
mm,
NGO that really want to be able to improve access to justice for the marginalized. And
mm,
speaking to them really is very, and also very enlightening. I learned a lot of stuff even
mm,
from just one conversation, because there are people
mm,
who is able to use technology, right, to be able to improve again access to justice, because we're on the same page, right? The question is how. And the key point here is that because there are pockets of people around the world doing this, but
yeah,
can you imagine that
yeah,
everybody coming together, unified, and everybody moving in a certain direction? So
mm,
these are things that we can do at a social level, right? Where we are able to bridge the gaps between communities in different countries and to be aligned on the same um, objective. So
yeah,
these are
yeah.
pretty powerful stuff that we're talking
I
about.
mean, yeah, I mean, on one hand is if, these AIs or these robots, if made cheap enough or accessible enough for ordinary Main Street people, you can close the gaps. I mean, you're talking about technology right now that is
Mm,
already empowering a lot of people. Um, I mean, it's empowering people's minds, it's empowering people's livelihoods.
mm,
I mean, look at the number of millionaires that have been created on the social media, right? How many of those housewives have become millionaires because they are able to cook something or
maybe
bake
I
something?
think
They've
we
got
really should change the jobs, right?
millions out there. Got millions. I tried to have a cooking channel, by the way, but it didn't work because the only thing I could cook was just the variation of the fried rice, of the Asian fried rice. So I want to hear you talk about the next point. I'm following your thought, the train of thought. You talked about AI addressing global challenges. We did talk a little bit about um,
Like
food,
yesterday.
agriculture, and
Mhm.
definitely, food security is one thing because we talked about distribution of the food. If you're able to make it more equitable and the growth and the harvesting using data and also robots
Mm.
to take care of the agricultural industry, that could really multiply tenfold or even hundredfold.
Mm.
No one should go hungry if there's another form of very efficient distribution. But I would like to hear from you. Is there any other parts of this global challenges that you would like
But
to address?
I think there are many global challenges, but I
Mm,
think of the biggest global challenges
yeah,
that we have that really
yeah,
know that humanity faces,
yeah,
right? I think there are two big things. One would be climate change. Obviously, this is a
yeah,
common thing, right? I mean, climate change. Everybody is facing the same
yeah,
issues, right? But the other one about climate change is somewhat man-made, but also very nature-based. So there are a lot of things that we are not in control of. But I
yeah,
believe one thing that we absolutely are in control of, and that's it, poverty.
yeah. And I
And a
would
large part of
really
it,
think, yeah, tell me.
and a large part of it is because and I also believe this is man-made. Poverty is man-made, right? And we talk about the social gaps,
Yeah,
economic gaps. I mean, just purely from the statement alone that the 1% of the top 1% of
the world's richest,
the most richest men people, right, owns like what more than half
90%
of the world's
of the
wealth.
world's wealth.
Right? Is that statement alone is just wrong, right? So the question here
Mhm.
would be how are we able to
Going to
use tech,
address,
right, to
yeah,
address poverty? And I think right
yeah,
now
yeah, yeah,
AI is really a tool, something that we can really be able to use. Remember, I think yesterday we
yeah,
talked about UAE, right? United Arab
yeah,
Emirates have a Ministry of AI. So
yeah.
so I think we talk about that, and what is Ministry of AI? What is their function? What are they going to do? But I think what they what is really happening here is that AI is going to be so encompassing that it will be in every other ministry, in every ministry, right? So
Mm.
it will be able to improve access to education. You should be able to improve healthcare. We should be able to, power the banks, the financial institution, right? And of course, if you're agricultural society, you should be also be able to enable better yields, as you mentioned, reduce
So when are you
costs.
going to vote you to be the president?
I'm not a politician. I'm not a politician, right? But, but I'm just
So
saying.
we should take this. I mean, I am thinking that we really should take this up on a global level to talk about. I mean, if we identify these problem statements, then people should put their heads together to find the avenues of solutions or the avenues of possible solutions. You know, when
But
you
the
talk about poverty, when you sorry, yeah,
but the good news, like I said, I mean, there are a lot of NGOs out there that are
yeah,
already starting to do this. But a lot of the problem with that is a lot of
yeah.
NGOs, right?
You better be careful of the NGOs because in America they are really cutting all the contracts of the NGOs because they say they're the most corrupt.
look. I mean,
Jokes aside, jokes aside, jokes
yeah.
aside.
I mean, but but the problem here, I say NGOs because they are social and they are ground up mostly, right? And the other two ends of
Yeah,
the society, how it's being organized. Obviously, one would be the capitalism,
yeah,
right? If the society is truly capitalized,
yeah,
meaning that they're all capitalists,
yeah.
I think that's a very dangerous path,
That
right?
totally, totally, totally. You
Right.
know, we can
In,
really have another episode on this
yeah. So
because I've
this,
lived. I mean, I hope that I can talk to you about this because I've lived in a communist country, China, and I've lived in somehow welfare society in France, in Europe.
right?
You know, some part of Europe is really kind of like you. They have. I don't call it socialist, but they adopt a lot of social welfare systems.
Mm,
So I hope we can talk about this. I'd like to juxtapose this with purely capitalistic country
yeah.
like what we have in Singapore
So if it's
elsewhere.
truly capitalistic, right? I mean, it's pretty
It's
scary,
very
right? I
dangerous,
mean,
right?
it's
It
dangerous
is.
as
It,
well.
it
Of
is. It is.
course, Of course,
I mean,
the other end,
there's a lot of social ills we're talking about in a capitalist. I mean, we even learning the textbooks, right?
yeah, right.
The black
So,
box. Nobody takes care of a black box.
but I mean, again, on the other extreme end will be a total totalitarian 1984 kind of scenario. But I don't
Yep.
think any country is truly on the extreme ends, right? But both ends you do not want to be.
Mm,
You do not want to be on both ends. So that's, I think that's the reason why I also truly believe, right, that there
yeah.
should be social aspects, whether it's ground up NGOs, and these organizations are very, very important to keep the society sane.
Yeah.
I mean, we need these, right? I mean, unfortunately, that there are NGOs, like for example, a lot of food banks, they exist, right? Right. I mean, in many countries, first well, the first world countries that develop, why do they even have food banks? You know, so I think these are questions where we really need to,
Inefficiencies in the structure.
right. So I think not just inefficiency, but it's really about the
Mm,
ability to distribute, right, wealth
yeah.
and food. We're not even
Mm,
talking about food here, whether we can actually distribute this,
yeah.
because I think there's enough food in the world, right? The real question here is about distribution and wastage, right? So
Yeah.
perhaps, things like AI will be able to help, maybe not solve the problem
Yeah.
entirely, right? But to really be able to analyze all this data and perhaps come up
Mm,
with solutions.
mm,
So, and of course, you have things like very, very simple things like, oh, okay, maybe I shouldn't say simple. We talk about job creation and economic development and empowerment.
mm,
Those are really difficult stuff, right? But I think there's a lot of opportunities as well, right? Moving forward. And look, but obviously there are a lot of challenges, and this is, if you look at it from, and this is just talking about poverty, right? We're touching about the entire fabric of the society, and how the governance and all this. So, and we're not even talking about on a global basis, right? We're talking about even from a country level. Let's start from the country level, and if we are able to recognize certain things that we can help with the tools, I truly believe that, with the correct use,
yeah.
of AI and technology, we can really truly improve human life, right? And I think one of those key things, and really, really important for us, is really we should be able to address poverty. The only question here would be, you know, do we have the gumption? Do we have the heart, or do we have the will to
The
say that
will.
yes, at a universal level, and say that yes, let's address poverty at a universal level, universal level, and then you
Yeah.
cascade that down, because and also at a community level, going up the chain as well. So at some point, I think this is a incredible opportunity. I believe, right, that AI's potential on that
So that's a mic drop moment from Alex Chen.
but it's really up to
Who's
us.
watching? Who's watching right now? So I really invite because people are coming in and out, right? Who's watching right now? And if you're a policymaker, drop us an email. You can reach out to Alex Chen here or myself here, but definitely want to reach out to Alex Chen. He would have a lot of ideas, the direction that we should go. And yes, we do need a lot of resources. We're talking about resources and talent, which means that we do need financial resources because we need to pay people to be able to put their heads together, the number of man hours to churn up program and then to deliver, and then to have people running on the ground to get these programs or these policies delivered. But we should talk now, Alex. Like what we talked about so many episodes ago, whatever policies, programs, or regulations, they always lag 10, 20 years behind. So therefore, I think it is of great urgency that we start talking about them on hindsight. Because like the internet world kind of descended to us over 20, 30 years ago, right? We haven't even addressed a lot of these issues. Alex, in order to continue our conversation, we're 45 minutes into the episode. I'd like to, yeah, I talked about my gut feel about the future,
Mhm.
being
Right.
swung between the utopian and the dystopian um, camps. But what about you? I want to hear your gut feel and not what you analyze. What's your first instinctive uh, response to the future of your children?
I would go back to what I have thought about before in terms of
Yeah,
I drew a mind map. I mean, that was probably about 10 years ago, I think. Right? I can't remember
yeah,
exact time, but 10 years ago, I was asked a philosophical question whether technology is it good or bad? It's a very simple question. So
mm,
I think you know me, right? I like to draw mind maps and I drew that out. Um, not to sound pessimistic, but I'm a realist, right? I believe that, and I believe that, in terms of technology, right, we will create that one particular one button. I think you remember me saying that, right? That one button, once you press that button, right,
yeah,
that you can't go back. You
mm,
can't go back in time because you have entropy. Because it's like that button will be the beginning of the end of everything, right? And our job, I think, from at least for me, right, my job, I truly believe that the button will be created at some point in time,
yeah,
and somebody will be crazy enough to press that button, and then after that, the world will just be in decline, right?
yeah.
Eventually, right?
And
So
just
our
to
job,
echo, yeah, and just to
yeah.
also echo you, OpenAI, they are going to roll out the AGI, but one of the co-founders, really hard to pronounce his name. I think he's a Israeli. He said that before they roll out the AGI, um, he will build a bunker for himself. So that's like he kind of like said seriously, and I kind of read it. I think that goes to show that people are being thrown to both sides. The pendulum
Mm,
swing, and even people who are in the industry are on either camps.
mm.
And you can talk about people who are developers themselves, and they can talk about they want to create a bunker for themselves. I think that speaks a lot, even without saying a lot of other
Mm.
things.
Yeah. So look, I used to be in the Navy, right? So
Yeah.
I have a very healthy respect for the sea. A
Mm,
very, very healthy respect for the sea, right? So
mm,
and yeah, while I'm not afraid of it, I have a good very good fear of the sea because
yeah.
it's because it can overwhelm you, right? So
Mm,
this is going to be the same, right? So technology.
yeah.
So, but just to continue what I was going to say, I
Yeah.
think I recognize that fact that if that button is going to be created by somebody and somebody would
Yeah.
press that button, right?
Yeah.
So my job would really be at this point in time is
Mm,
to try to extend the amount of time, right, between
yeah.
now and somebody pressing the button, right? I don't know whether that will happen within 100 years or 200 years or 1,000 years. I have no idea, but I recognize that right now my job would be to delay that pressing of the button, even if it's for one day. I'll do it, right? Because I recognize that. So
Mm, mm, mm.
you can call me a pessimist, but I think I'm a realist. It's very same
So,
as the AI will want to create a bunker and
so you can't run away from this show without answering my question, state of the world, humanity for better or for worse. What's your response?
I mean definitely for the better,
Just a
right?
simple answer.
For the better, for sure, 100%. That's why
Mm,
we're here. Why if
mm,
we are not here for the better, then why would we even bother be spending what
To
the
try
this
to
age,
work so hard to navigate
right, to have this
into a better
conversation.
future. Yeah.
Yeah, is we have to use this because we have to fight whatever the dark
Battles out there.
forces that there's out there, right? So
Yeah.
we have to come out and say things and to be able to unite as a humankind, right? Of course, there are
Yeah.
pockets everywhere, right? But
Yeah.
there are certain things that we cannot, that we have to come together and in recognition, like very much like climate change, right? And if we can't even agree on that the world is facing a crisis in climate change, then
Yeah.
we have a problem, right?
Yeah.
So I think is we really have to be able to come together and again, we truly believe that we have come to a point where this, again, I don't like to use, sometimes I even don't like to use the word AI anymore, right? But
Yeah.
it's this next step of technology is going to be our greatest ally, right, in terms of discovery, for science, for mankind,
Mm.
for even perhaps even increasing population,
Yeah.
to be able to sustain men. Okay,
Yeah.
so we have I think we have already come to the point where we realize that I did say that uh, humans need Earth. Earth don't really need us, right? So we need
Just
to,
like Mars really don't need us.
yeah, because if we are, look, if
We need Mars just for
humankind,
civilization to restart all over again.
right? Again, if you look at again through human history, right? We have the human imperialism, colonization coming
Yeah.
in to take over societies. So, I mean, if you look at it from that perspective, we are not very nice people. I mean, we're not very nice race species, right? Because we come here, we conquer, right? So if you put it that way, so
Yeah.
good for us, but not good for the others,
Yeah.
right? Whether is it on a planetary level or whether is it from another species level, right? So we there are from a very human nature, we have to
Yeah.
understand who we are as humans,
Yeah.
right? But
Okay.
I do believe,
Yeah. I'm just gonna throw you a couple of questions before we go because this is like, that's why we're saying that time is racing. Look, we're actually 52 minutes into this,
right?
but which feels like just 5 minutes. That's why I think, we really should look at, longevity because life just starts now. Okay,
Well,
I'm just gonna ask you, like, you in your notes. I thought that this point stands out: smart cities and citizen-centric services. And it says that in smart cities, AI is embedded in various infrastructures to optimize urban living, from traffic management to waste collection, and also to improve the quality of life. Deployment of AI. I have a quick. I would like you to address this point, but I do have a quick take also. Um, uh, Bill Gates, he just came out a couple of days ago when he was being interviewed to say that the future, or future meaning not like 10 years later, but the very near future, work is only 2 days per week, which means that you have the rest of your time free. And this made me think, and also something that you spoke about that resonated in me about, our structures of life will change. And I really want to think that we must be ready for the structures of life to change because our whole life we have this we have been trained, or conditioned, I would say, conditioned to kind of work or to do a certain thing. Either you're paid work because you're a paid worker, you're not paid because you're a housewife, or that you're doing voluntary work, you're not paid, etc. Your structures will change. And I think that may throw people or may disrupt people's lives and their mental mindset. So I would think that that's really important. There would be a transition time frame for people to get over this phase to get onto the other side,
Mhm.
right? So, and I'm kind of, the word is, I'm kind of wary that people, are they able to recognize there is such a transitional phase in their path that they never thought of and they never knew will exist. And when they reach this path and this side, they're shocked. You know what I'm trying to say?
Mhm.
And when they're shocked, they can't reconcile this side. And if they can't reconcile, there is this side that they need to traverse to go over to the other side, to cross over the chasm and
Mhm.
land successfully onto the other bank. I think there is an inherent group of people who will not be able to recognize there is this a transitional phase when they come to this particular point. And I am afraid that throws that will throw many people off balance. Like what Bill Gates say, you know, we must be prepared that we're going to just have 2 days of work, and governments, like what Andrew Yang says, even like 10 years ago when he was running for president in the US, the first thing he said is universal basic income, $1,000 check for people
Right.
because your data is being taken. I mean, now we're talking about maybe that disruption from here for this transitional phase before anybody is able to cross over to this side, which is the
Yeah.
abundance. There is a transitional phase. And this
So,
transitional phase could be suddenly that they're thrown into a particular phase whereby, hey, now you don't have a job, or then now you just have a 2-day job. And what do I do with the rest of my life that they can't see on the other side? Even
okay.
though the other side exists. So that kind of scenario, to me, is real. Um, I'm prepared for it because I'm an entrepreneur. Would throw me whatever, I can still survive. But there will be people who are not able to do that because they think that their life a long journey is this way. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, look. I mean, humans adapt. So humans are pretty good at adapting. So because if you don't, you die, right? So it's a
Some
very
people
simple.
die.
Yeah. So and
Some
some
people
do.
do.
Yeah, some people do, right? So, but I
Yeah,
think the key point here is the ability to adapt, right? So Bill Gates is really talking about that, right? And if you talk
yeah.
about 2 days, if you talk about the reason why, right? Currently, right now, we're not getting 2 days of work. Let me explain this to you, right? Let me explain to you why we can't get 2 days of work because of traffic lights, right?
Because of what?
Traffic lights, right? Currently,
Mm,
right now, traffic lights. Okay, not all, but I would say a huge 99% of the world, traffic lights don't talk to each other because this traffic light and the next traffic light, they don't talk to each other, right? So if they don't talk to
yeah,
each other, right? If they don't, right? So you traffic, right? Sometimes you're in traffic and then you keep getting blocked and your traffic smooth. It's not smooth. And then in order to get home, it takes you 45 minutes. But while the drive is actually 15 minutes, right? So you're in the car in the jam, you're being stuck. So right now,
yeah,
the point here is that with data and with AI, the ability to chunk, to really analyze data, there's an opportunity here where the traffic light is able to talk to maybe the lamppost, and the lamppost is able to talk to. And we're talking about IoT stuff, right?
yeah,
So these are the
yeah,
smart nation system, and then you have a whole bunch of what we call the data level, talking to
yeah.
everything, every single thing that is in
Okay,
the
I
thing.
don't. Okay, I mean that's the best case scenario. We're talking about this whole contingency scenarios, but you know, in a way, I do echo you and echo what Bill Gates says.
Mhm.
2-day work for everyone. I'm looking at the management term equivalent units. In a management costing, you're talking about each unit when you have the whole factory, right? I mean, it's just like now we're talking about adapting the concept to human labor. Certain people out of jobs, certain people underemployed, certain people are in jobs and they're working overtime and they're not paid and they're like underpaid. If you actually pull them together on a totality, right?
Mhm.
In terms of equivalent units and divide by the number of human beings, maybe you will get 2 working days
Mhm.
per week. So in that sense, it's right. It's just that again, the term is distribution.
Mhm.
How
Well,
do we arrive at that level? We will have this kind of natural selection. Wow, we have this kind of natural selection whereby certain people will want to go to that abundance world, the world of abundance. There's certain people who will fall down.
I agree, right? But in a way, if you again look back human history,
Yeah,
when you talk about work,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
That word work, right, didn't exist a couple of hundred years ago because
Slavery.
because industrial revolution started in Manchester, right? And you have factories, and then people start going to work because they get paid. The reason why, and then we have the whole current state of economics, right? We have the Keynesians, and then because the reason why you work is you get money, and so you get exchange for certain things, right? So, but if you go back all the way,
Yeah.
right? Have we done work? I mean, 1,000 years back, maybe not. Not okay. Of course, not in this current kind of
Yeah, the enslaved
modern
housewives
economic, right?
who still
So
exist now.
they don't really work, right? So for 1,000 years, I mean, you're self-sustaining, right? You have your
Mm,
farmland and all this. Of course, the reason why they can still do that because they have farm, they are able
mm,
to sustain for themselves, so they are
yeah,
able to provide for their own families, right? So that's
yeah,
the reason why you know if you're dead, then it's not really about work. It's really about the ability to survive. So
yeah,
the current model of work, as you said, right, we're working every day, is still a relatively modern concept, right?
yeah, yeah,
Perhaps we can move out of that. Well, we don't have to call work. Maybe
yeah,
you can call it purpose, right?
yeah,
So 2 days of purpose for this purpose, work, right? And the other
yeah,
5 days for other purposes.
yeah,
Why not? So
yeah.
I fully
This is
subscribe.
this is something I'm already trying to achieve because I'm already planning my retirement stage of my life. So you
Well,
know what,
you should think
Alex?
about retirement because I think we all should work all the way to uh,
No, you
retirement.
can have you can have a meaningful retirement stage of your life, like doing voluntary work, like
I
giving back to society. And I'm not saying that you're just sitting by the beach and drinking coffee or drinking your red wine. Just hang on. Just a check for people who are looking on because we've got people who are looking on in and out. Yeah, we've got quite a lot of people watching us in and out of Facebook. Now we've got some people up there. We are actually 1 hour and 3 minutes into the
oof,
show.
mm,
I've got
it's up.
I've got Alex to wrap up to conclude. Because we're really in the thick of discussion, and we should come back in some form to continue AI and humanity, so that we can demystify some of these things for the main street. We don't want to think that everyone is with us. We want everyone to slowly keep with us. I mean, I'm trying very hard to keep up, Alex, just to let you know, just to like read and keep abreast of what's happening, and try to just get to the point and recognize when I come to this point before I cross over the chasm. So, I recognize, but there are people who do not recognize this point. I hope that what we do in our show, State of Our World, AI and Humanity, we hope that, it is my humble hope that we can point to certain light for people to get prepared, for even people to get exposed to some of these concepts so that people, when they see this thing coming up, they can recognize it and be prepared. And I'm not kidding because there are new skills that you need to take up. You need to relearn or unlearn certain things. Some of the things, some of the concepts, to be honest, Alex, it's already irrelevant. Like I used to teach marketing, and I used to teach digital marketing, and digital campaigns, but they are now irrelevant because you've got AI. But it made it really simple because you can actually prompt the AI to do a lot of things
Right.
to get the results that you want. But you still do have to learn to get to the tools to do that. So I would like Alex to wrap up the
Mhm.
next in the next 3 minutes or so for 7 or 8 episodes that we had, and then
Right.
come back for the next season as we
Mhm.
design something that is profitable for our audience. I mean, whatever we do here really is really for humanity. We could be in any of the camps. What we do is not to prescribe, but what we do is just to present. And then the rest of the people can decide which camp they want to be, or they just want to swing between the both. But just like what's happening in the world right now, either the war is going to stop, the war is not going to stop, or they're just going to have a conversation. So I
Mm.
just really hope that one day people can get certain takeaways from our conversation. So Alex, over to you the next 3 minutes.
Right. I think ultimately the reason why I want to do this series is in full recognition that the future is not a passive outcome, but rather a very active construction. We need to acknowledge that the potential risks, right, and the benefits. No, it's really going down to engaging in proactive, collaborative,
Mm,
to be informed in our decision making, whether is it at a strategic level or whether is it a daily life, right? So
yeah,
humanity, right? We
yeah,
have this opportunity to steer this technology called AI towards a future
yeah.
that really maximizes its benefits
Mm,
while we're trying to mitigate the profound challenges that we have today, like poverty and climate change. The goal is really about to build a future where where AI serves humanity. It should serve us rather than being dominated, or where the humankind will diminish because of AI. So I truly believe that in that, and then that's the reason why we're spending this time in this series.
So with that, and on that note, Alex Chan, can I nominate you to be in Qatar at the Ministry of AI?
Oh well, I mean that's a way too bad. That's political, so I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure I
So
want to be
just for the
over the political.
goodness of humanity. So on that note, just want to thank Alex for
Thank
that
you.
wonderful conversation that we had to dissect AI and humanity. And we talked a lot of things, humanity and education, humanity and ethics, humanity and AI. Why does it feel different right now with this industrialization or technological industrialization? And Alex, I invite you to be with us for the next season uh, and then vote you into the Ministry of AI. So,
Uh,
ladies and gentlemen, it's been a wonderful time. And hopefully, all of us can recognize when we come to this bank of the chasm and then cross um, safely, fully, successfully to the other side of the bank. And on that note, I just want to thank Alex
Thank you.
and then join us again for the next season. And also watch out for our book and the podcast that's going to come out. Alex and myself, and also Alex and myself through AI, will shorten all these discussions and conversations with our AI avatars online, right? Hopefully that will come out soon. So, Alex, thank you so much. And
Thank
on
you.
behalf of the Main Street, on behalf of the listeners and the audience who are tuning in now or tomorrow or forever, thank you once again and welcome you to our next season, either here or on x.com. It's been a wonderful and enlightening experience.
Again, thank you for having me.